Topic 10.1. Objective. I know how to write a fraction to represent part of one whole. Today, I will learn to represent quantities that are greater than one whole. Pause the video now to write this down in your spiral notebook. Set the purpose. When have you described a quantity that was greater than 1 and less than 2? Write that in your spiral notebook. Pause the video now. My thoughts were a game that lasts an hour and a half, or perhaps a cup and a half of flour. Pose the problem. In your math journal, copy this number line, then write the numbers most likely represented by points A and B. This should be a solid line between A and B. Then I'd like for you to explain your work. So really you see 0 to 1 and 1 to 2. So what do you think A and B are? Pause the video now to write it down in your math spiral. What number does point A represent? 0 to 1, right in the middle would be point A. So it would be 1/2, halfway between 0 and 1. A proper fraction is less than 1. 1/2 is now a proper fraction. What number does point B represent? Let's see, it's between 1 and 2, but we had 0, 1/2, 2 halves would be 1, 3 halves, 4 halves. So this would be 3 halves, which was not a proper fraction, so it must be improper. Let's check. Yes, halfway between 1 and 2 is 3 halves. An improper fraction is greater or equal to 1, and in this case, it's greater. What part of a unit is the distance from 1 to point B? From 1 to point B is half. So all of these are halves. 1/2, 2 halves, 3 halves, 4 halves. And if we went on, 5 halves. Count how many points to the number 1 starting with the point after the 0. Okay, 1, 2, 3. So I know this is divided into thirds. Let's check between 1 and 2. And you start with the one after 1, 2, 3. Sure enough, it's in thirds. Okay, so this would be 1/3. Oops, let me get my pencil. 1/3. And then this would be 2/3, 3/3, 4/3, 5/3, 6/3, 7/3. I'm going to go ahead and write that down. Please write this in your math spiral. Okay, so I wrote it all down and then I marked all of it. 1/3, 2/3, 3/3, 4/3, 5/3, 6/3, 7/3. Write what you think point E is. Well, I think it's 2/3. And point G, I think it's 6/3. Okay, we could also say that this is 1 and 1/3. And that's a mixed number because it has fraction and a whole number. I'll make that a longer one. This would be 1 and 2/3. And 1 and 3/3 is 2, which is right there. And then 2 1/3. Okay. And of course, 3/3 would be 1. Okay, so now you see the mixed numbers. The proper fractions are right here, and these are all improper, starting with 3/3 all the way up to 7/3. So I have written the proper, the 2 right here, the improper, all of these, and the mixed numbers. Please write this in your math spiral. Pause the video now. Count how many points to the number 1, starting with a point after the 0. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 0 here. Should put that. There we go. Draw this line in your math journal and then label the proper fractions, the improper fractions, and mixed fractions. Pause the video now and do this. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 means it's fifths. So 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5 are all proper fractions. 5/5 is an improper fraction, otherwise known as 1. 6/5 would be 1 and 1/5, or 6/5 is your improper. 1 and 1/5 is your proper. 7/5 or 1 and 2/5. 1 and 2/5 would be your mixed number, and 7/5 would be your improper fraction. Check to see if you have the same answers as I do. After checking, go to the next screen. Count how many points to the number 1, starting with the point after the 0. You can see the 0 there. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's divided into fourths. Draw this line in your math journal, then label the proper fractions, the improper fractions, and mixed fractions on the number line. Pause the video now. Now let's check your answers. This one I reduced. Divided both by 2, as you know, and I got 1/2. So these are my proper fractions. This is an improper fraction, as well as 5/4, 6/4, and 7/4. The whole number 1 is proper. Now we have mixed numbers right here, and right here. I had to reduce the 2/4 to make it 1/2. If you don't have all the same numbers, can you go ahead and put it in your spiral notebook now? Pause the video if you need to. Let's try something new. Change these improper fractions into mixed numbers. The way to make improper fractions into mixed numbers is to take the denominator and make it your divisor. For example, 24/7. My denominator becomes my divisor. So I take it and I put it right here. It's my divisor. The numerator becomes my dividend. 7 goes into 24 3 times. 3 times 7 is 21. I subtract, and I get 3. I don't have anything to bring down, so I'm all done. The remainder becomes my numerator. My same divisor, which was my denominator, stays there. And this right here is my whole number. So my quotient is my whole number. My numerator was my remainder, and this is still my same denominator. Please write this in your math spiral now. Pause the video. Change these improper fractions into mixed numbers. The way to make improper fractions into mixed numbers is to take the denominator and make it your divisor. For example, 18/4. Write this in your math spiral, then make it a mixed number. Solve the division problem. Next, write the whole number, which is the quotient, the answer to the problem. Next, take the remainder, and that is now the numerator and the denominator of the original fraction. The divisor becomes the denominator again. So one more time, take 4 into 18. Do that now and pause the video. How'd you do? 4 was the whole number. Your remainder was 2. So we put that as the numerator. Your divisor was 4, so it was all your original denominator, so we put that as 4, but we had to reduce it and put it in simplest form, so we have 4 and 1/4 is your answer. Try another one. Take your denominator, make it your divisor. Pause the video now and write this in your math spiral. Then make it a mixed number. Check when you're done. How'd you do? I took my denominator, made it my divisor. I took my numerator, made it my dividend. 5 goes into 27 5 times. 5 times 5 is 25. I subtracted, I got 2. My remainder is now my numerator, and the original divisor, which was denominator, is right there. Last one of these, but I bet you're a pro by now. Remember to take your denominator, make it your divisor. Your numerator becomes your dividend. Go ahead and work this one in your math spiral now. Then make it a mixed number and check. Pause the video now. How'd you do? 9 was my denominator, now it's my divisor. This was my numerator, now it's my dividend. 9 goes into 46 5 times, then I subtract it from, and I get 1. My remainder becomes my numerator. My denominator is still the same. Here's something even easier. Let's make mixed numbers into improper fractions. Take the denominator times the whole number and then add the numerator. Lastly, put the number over the original denominator. So I showed you 3 is my denominator times my whole number plus my numerator. I did it on all of these, and the denominator stays the same. So I just wrote them down below and solved them. That's how you do it. Pause the video and put this in your math spiral. Now try making mixed numbers into improper fractions. Write these in your math journal, then solve. Then check. Pause the video now. How'd you do? Did you get this for your work? Now I'll solve it. 56 plus 1 is 57. 9 times 5 is 45 plus 1 is 46. And 5 times 12 is 60 plus 3 is 63. That was fun. For a challenge, show 2 1/3 on a number line. Explain why your point represents 2 1/3. Write an equivalent improper fraction. Do all 3 of the above in your math spiral. Pause the video while you do this, then check.